I did not do an intro for the show because I'm A, not a professional, and B, we were just catching up. So here comes my big fat intro.
Love it.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are on Oral Sessions. I am back, joined by none other than the star of Heels, coming out August 15th on Starz, Stephen Amell. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. I got to watch some of Heels, and what a show.
Tell me what you think.
I think it's
proud.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think people are going to really love this show. And I think like the more you get into the characters and the more you're getting into these storylines, like it's one thing to have like all of the wrestling that's taking place in the ring, but getting that like behind the scenes peek and then learning about these characters. And as they're all kind of unfolding with Jack Spade and Ace Spade, Crystal, I'm a big Crystal fan.
Yeah, Crystal's, well, if you're a big Crystal fan, then stick around for the entire first season, because she's, without spoiling too much, I think it goes without saying that, she's not just she might be the pivotal character of the first season of the show, or at least the big takeaway by the time it's all done.
Yeah, I kind of gathered that by the fourth episode, that
sure.
as like some things were starting to shake out for her, that again, we won't reveal too much, but you can see that she's got other plans for herself in mind. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
As I've been doing all of my press, I have been, believe it or not, I've been stealing, or at least using, and I'm going to give credit now, a Colin Cowherd-ism, which is that, I swear to God, which is that when it comes to this show, this is what he talks about when he's talking about wide receivers in the NFL, that they're the icing, not the cake. And when it comes to Heels, if you're a wrestling fan, by all means, jump in. But if you're not, the wrestling of this show, it's the icing, it's not the cake. The cake is the relationship with Ace and Jack, and Ace and Crystal, and Jack and Stacy, and Jack and Willie and Bill, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's really, there's definitely like a lot of like meat and potatoes here with the show as it's all kind of coming together. But yeah, I mean, it's something to definitely be proud of. How did the idea all come together? I mean, I obviously know that you're a huge wrestling fan. We've seen you in SummerSlams, we've seen you in AEW, and we'll get into all of that stuff. But how did this show concept kind of come together as you were unwinding with Arrow?
Yeah, well, it came together because I was unwinding with Arrow, actually. They tried to put this show together. Michael Waldron, who is writing the new Doctor Strange movie, is involved in Star Wars, and just finished up Loki on Disney Plus. Yeah, really, really cool. Super talented guy. He grew up a big wrestling fan, and he wrote all 8 episodes of the first season. And then they tried to put it together, and they were having casting issues with finding Jack and finding Ace. And Alexander Ludwig, who plays Ace, was shooting Vikings at the time. I was shooting Arrow. And then we announced Arrow's ending, and my manager got in touch with me. We were on the last season, maybe 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes into our 10-episode final season, and he just called me up, and he's like, "You got to read this script." And I said, "What? Like a movie?" And he goes, "No, a TV series." And I go, "No. I'm just about to finish a TV series." And I hadn't discussed or thought about or really given consideration to what I was going to do next at all, because I didn't want to take my attention away from finishing out Arrow. I wanted to finish strong. And he goes, no. He goes, "You're going to get an offer on this. You need to read these scripts, at least the first 2. It's a show about professional wrestling set in a fictional town in small town Georgia." I said, "Really? It's about professional wrestling?" He's like, "Yeah." And I go, "And my character is," and he goes, "He's the lead or one of the co-leads." And I said, "Mm-hmm." And he goes, "Yeah, he's a professional wrestler." And I'm like, oh shit.
Send it along.
And I said, yeah, send it along. And I was doing that whole thing, reading the first script. The whole time I'm reading the first script, I'm like 15 pages in. Oh shit.
I have to do this.
Man. And then I read the second script, but by the end of the first script, I just called him up and I said, "Okay, next steps." He goes, "Next steps is we start
get your gear made, babe."
Next steps are we start negotiating but I want you to hop on the phone with the showrunner, Michael Malley, who did. I mean, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Survivor's Remorse. Oh my
Welcome to
goodness.
my world. I never know what I'm
it,
talking
it,
about.
no,
It's fine.
it'll come to me. But he
Okay.
he took over for Michael Waldron, who's remains the the creator of the show, the guy that wrote the scripts and stuff like that. But he came on as showrunner because Michael was busy and on to other projects. And I had a great chat with him, Boston guy. We bonded over baseball. Like I just sat on the Monsters for the first time at Fenway, and we had a really good chat. And then it just became the whole, all right, once you get into negotiating, when you make a counteroffer, you have to be prepared to accept it if they say yes. And I had good chats with him, with my team, my manager, my lawyer, Garnett and Harris, and I had a really good chat with Greg Berlanti, who was trepidatious at first. Greg is the guy that created Arrow and all the shows that sort of evolved out of that show. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, he goes, Stephen, because you're just about to be done this. You've been on the treadmill for 8 years. He goes, don't go home with the first girl who winks at you at the bar. And I said, well, Greg, I agree, but this girl's beautiful, and I really like her.
She could be the one.
She might be the one. And he said, well, what's it about? And I told him, and he goes, oh, well, you should have led with that. You should definitely do that. So, and it's not just that. It's a television show, and I can see how it just be like a natural extension of being on Arrow, but it really is it's a different world working. I loved working for the CW and Warner Brothers Television, but 22, 23 episodes a year with commercial breaks and act-ins and act-outs, shooting 8 episodes for a premium cable network. It's not better, but it's decidedly different. It's a lot closer to making a feature film than it is to what I was used to in television.
There's a lot more boobs too, so there's that.
A lot more boobs.
Lot more boobs.
Yeah. I tried to get my butt on the show, but they're like, no. That was that. By the way, that was the beginning of episode 5. You missed that part. That was the part.
Come on, you only sent me to 4. But, you're no stranger to that. You were in Hung. You know how it all goes.
That's true. That's true. Anyway, no, they kiboshed it. Season one is purely about Alexander's ass and not mine.
Do you take a little offense to that? Because I think that's a little rude, honestly.
No, have you seen him?
Well, he's a very handsome man. Yeah,
he's a very yeah. I'd also like to give a shout out and a big thank you. I thought that on Arrow we had found all of the actors in Hollywood that are taller than I am, but apparently not. Like meeting Alexander for the first time, he's like 10 years younger than I am.
Another Canadian too. What the hell?
Another Canadian guy. No, not just that, but our dad, who's played by David James Elliott, he's a Canadian as well. So
we just don't stop. We don't quit.
That's it. The whole Spade patriarchy is made up of Canucks.
I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, I was very excited when I met him and realized that he's 6'4", 220 pounds. I was like, that's great, guys. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I feel like anyone that was on Vikings must have hit that bill. I mean, that's like Edge, right? Adam Copeland's also a large man.
Yeah.
And yes,
Canadian. Yes,
wow.
He is.
Yeah, we're really taking over. Did you guys bring on any consultants to get the wrestling right in the show?
Well, I tried to bring on Cody, mm-hmm. and to a larger extent AEW, and just sort of memorialize it that way, because I thought that would be a good partnership for a variety of reasons. I mean, just in terms of laying down built-in advertising and the fact that they're on TV every week. And we never got a chance to do that formally, but we have Luke Hawks, who speaking with Tommy Dreamer earlier today, they're good friends, and so he was there, and they were there to build the matches. I took a lot of what I've learned from my limited but really, really useful time backstage at WWE events, Ring of Honor events, or event, and then All In, which was kind of like a hybrid of all those things. But even going and seeing, I can't remember the name of the pay-per-view When I Last Saw You, when John
All
won,
Out, I think.
I think it was all,
All
yeah.
Out.
Well, it was I mean, it was in Chicago again. It
Yeah.
wasn't the same spot. It was more downtown. But,
Yeah.
you know, Cody, for All In especially, really has the role that Jack has within the DWL. And I watched Arn Anderson run a couple of shows, a couple of WWE house shows in Vancouver and Victoria back in 2015. So from a consultant standpoint, they actually leaned on me pretty heavily.
Mhm.
And if they asked me a question and I didn't know the answer to it, or Luke didn't know the answer to it, we had Phil CM Punk on the
Mhm.
show, and
Ricky
he was
Rabies.
Ricky Rabies, and he was great, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
fantastic. That
and
hair.
I know,
And
it's
that's
so
all
great.
his hair, right?
It's all his hair. It's just
Jesus.
his hair all boofed up.
It's great.
So he was wonderful, and so I mean, we would lean into him a little bit too, although he was very much, and I think that this sort of, he would get this from coming up through the ranks in wrestling, that on the show, it being like a television show and him being an actor, he was very much like sitting in the background as kind of a rookie.
Got it.
And I'd be like, Phil, what do you think? And he'd be like, oh, no, whatever you guys think. And I go, no, Phil, what do you think? Please.
Yeah, don't get
And
shy on us now.
thank you very much, best in the world. And then he would, and then he would sort of begrudgingly, quietly say, well, why don't you guys try this? Because, I figured, if you're a wrestling fan, you're probably going to give the show a try. And I wanted to make sure that we acquitted ourselves well in that arena in terms of being faithful to the business.
Mhm.
So yeah, I didn't want to alienate wrestling fans that way. So I think we did a pretty good job with it. I mean, at the same time, occasionally they would come up with an idea, and I'd be like, yeah, that works for wrestling, but let's also remember that this is a television show.
Right.
And it was a learning curve for everyone. I remember talking with Mike O'Malley and him being like, hey, so, and spoiler alert, Jack Spade and Ricky Rabies tear it up in episode 3. But the network was watching it, and they're like, hey, so when Jack is punching Ricky Rabies, some of the punches look a little fake, or look like he's just sort of like grazing the top of his head. And we're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pro wrestling match. That's how it looks. So
It's got to be hard to kind of strike that balance too, of like giving the true wrestling fans what they want to feel like. I mean, we know how they can be. And then actually just having a television show that doesn't alienate people that don't know anything about wrestling. It's hard to find that balance. And now with
yeah.
there being several other wrestling shows, I mean, with having Young Rock, we've got Heels coming out, and now the new announcement that they're doing the Vince McMahon scripted show. Did you see
the
that?
Vince McMahon scripted show, and Bill Simmons is doing like a multi-part documentary for Netflix, I think, on Vince as well.
Yes. That will be good. I'm excited for that.
I got it. So, and I think that the Vince McMahon show is sort of set in like the 90s, right?
I think it's supposed to be covering the steroid trial,
which is like 94-ish, something like that. God damn it. Could they do me? Can't we wait for Heels to be over so that I can play Vince McMahon in like the late 70s or something like that?
You can't be Vince. I mean, listen, Vince is
I
Vince,
could
but
be
like,
Vince.
I don't know. I mean, not
Okay.
to butter you up, but I feel like you're a little too handsome to play Vince.
No, offense. Thank you.
I mean,
that's fine. I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, no offense, Vince, who's maybe listening to this. Not to burn you. Okay, so you know about wrestling, the cast coming in, how did they prep to get into these roles, to learn about wrestling and to appease the crazy wrestling fan base?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. I know that Alexander leaned on Adam quite a bit, Adam Copeland Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't go so far as to say based his character off of him, but really like really just sought his advice as best he could. And then, you know, our my buddy, our guy Trey, who plays Bobby Pin, and Duke, who plays Big Jim. I don't know so much what they did. I think, you know, James Harrison and Alan Maldonado. Well, Alan jokes all the time that the two of them played for the Steelers. Like, it was a big running joke that we had all year. But I think James just learned how to wrestle, and then just basically brought his persona that he would have on the field to the ring. Which,
yeah,
I mean, so maybe he based it off of Lawrence Taylor's appearance in like WrestleMania 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone. I mean, look, they built us a ring on the soundstage, so a ring on one side, Jim on the other side, so that
you filmed it in Atlanta, right?
We filmed it in Atlanta, but they built us a full facility on the stages, because of, well, I mean, I think that they probably would have done it anyway, but because of COVID, so that we could all have a gym that we could go to that, you know, no one else was going to. So
was that a little bit, I want to use the word sad for you, that you went from Arrow into doing heels in another character that you had to be in impeccable shape for? You just can't get a break. Like, what the?
I thought about that too, because I was remember being like, yeah, but I mean, you know, on Arrow, all the training that I was doing was pretty much for like workout scenes and or the poster.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Whereas on heels, it was like I worried that, first of all, I had to eat like a crazy person to
How many calories a day you think you're eating? Like, what was the meal plan?
I have no idea, other than I would just eat and eat and eat and eat, because my natural weight is probably about 190 to 195 pounds. And I was around 220 when we were doing heels. And that's just not, that is not natural. That is not natural for me.
Yeah.
Also, like, I was much more into the whole, you know, Jack is probably in his mid 30s or thereabouts, mid to late 30s. And, you know, he's a lawnmower salesman. He's got shit to do and scripts to write, and, you know, likes a beer or several beers at the end of the day. And he probably doesn't have an 8-pack. So
perfect.
Yeah, great. They're like, perfect. No, Stephen, what if he does? And I'm like, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He just doesn't.
No, so it wasn't.
Good character work.
I didn't feel as much. I didn't feel as much pressure. The only time that we actually had to move a wrestling scene was because I had a little bit. I had like a little bit of a stomach bug. And I actually was having a lot of trouble keeping weight on. So I asked them to delay a scene, because it's very important to me to actually like look strong in the ring and look like I could handle myself. And also just because it's a rough and tumble world out there in the wrestling ring. And I wanted my body to be able to handle it.
Did you do a lot of your own stunts? Because you did that a lot in Arrow, right? Did you do that coast to coast? Did you really? Of course you did.
Yeah, I did. So I did it. So that was, wow. This is well teed up. I set it up to do it and did the first take. And the first take, I'm almost positive, is what you see in the preview. Now, I did a coast to coast at All In, and had never actually tried the move. I mean, I had prepped it and prepped pushing off the ropes. When I did it All In, I was so gassed and so blown up that you see me almost fall. Now, I make it, but at the last minute, you see me turn off to the side. I actually fractured my hip when I did that, and I got an occult fracture on my hip and didn't realize it. I got a note from Big Show. He texted me after the match. He goes,
Big
"Nice
hip
coast."
Guy.
Yeah, he goes, nice coast to coast. That looked pretty stiff. And at the time, I felt like I was sitting on a tennis ball. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So I did it on the show, and we got it on the first take, and I walked away completely unscathed. Like, everything's fine. And I said, I saw it, and I said, you know, the way that it plays, I didn't get as far across the ring as I wanted to. And I said, you know, let's just let's just try it again. Now, retrospectively, it starts off with the angle of me, like the wide angle going across the ring, but then it cuts in close to close on me from the front.
Yeah.
And theoretically, we could have very easily put a mat down in the ring, painted it out for the wide shot, and then just left it in. You wouldn't have seen it. So I asked for a second take. I purposely tried to jump further, and I got too close to Duke, who who plays Big Jim, and I landed straight up and down. And I thought I knocked the wind out of myself, and I did not. I fractured my T1 and T10 and L1 compression fracture
Steven.
in my back. I broke my back.
What the hell?
The first day of wrestling.
God.
So, like first day of wrestling, second take, I broke my back. And it sounds a lot scarier than it is, because basically it's a compression. Like I landed straight up and down, and it was one of those injuries that was incredibly painful. And it was painful mostly because I think it was a shock to my system, and everything around that area seized up. So for like 24 hours, I went to the hospital, and for like 24 hours, I had a lot of difficulty getting a full breath in. And then miraculously, it was like those muscles relaxed. And this happened on a Wednesday, maybe. And I spent Wednesday night in the hospital, but I was home on Thursday. I was back at work on Monday, believe it or not.
Damn.
Monday or Tuesday.
That's like,
yeah.
That's true old school way. Just get back to it.
But also not back in this happened around Halloween, and we were going for 2 or 3 more weeks. And then we took a long break from Thanksgiving until January, because a lot of people had to be away from their families for shooting during the pandemic. Right? Yeah. So we took a long break, and I was back in the ring. But I was handled with kid gloves, to put it mildly, until we finally got into, I shot my wrestling stuff, got back in, shot it. And towards the end, I had to actually go to our showrunner and say, listen, you guys have sent me to a back specialist. I am cleared. If someone took an x-ray of my back right now, you wouldn't be able to tell that this had happened. And you guys either need to let me do my thing safely, or you need to remove me and make this 100% a stunt situation, because the negative, there's a people being cautious around me is making me overthink things. Like Alexander at one point has to give me, he's trying to suplex me, and it's one of the things where he picks me up and I do a backflip and I land on my feet, which Cody and I did back at the SummerSlam match. It's something that I've done 100 times, but we did it, and I said, did you guys get it? Let's do another take. And they're like, no, we got it. You got it. We don't want to hurt you. And I'm like, okay, now I want another take, but now I'm getting in my head.
Yeah, now you're freaking me out.
So I told them, I said, I'm cleared. You got to let me go, or we have to change it up, because this half measure is not working for me.
Yeah, that's scary. But scary. To people that don't know, and you hear broken back, that sounds horrifying. Again, I know where you're coming from, because I've heard other people be in a similar situation and still be able to work on bones like that. But
I could have, if they wanted me to finish up my wrestling stuff, a week later, I certainly could have, but we had the luxury of giving me some time to heal.
Yeah, of course. So some other little fun Easter eggs that I don't know if I would even call it an Easter egg, but with Wild Bill, his scene on the airplane. How much of that was obviously a nod to Ric Flair, in the stories of Ric Flair just letting his wiener out in first class in his robe?
That's right. Look, I assume that Michael Waldron just clipped it right from the headlines, because as the story goes, wrestlers always travel with their gear, right? It doesn't matter what. This is one of the first things that Cody taught me is look, it doesn't matter if you're checking a bag, carry on, whatever. You travel with your boots, your belt, like you travel with your gear. So if everything else gets lost, at the very least, you're good to go to the ring that night.
Mhm.
And as the story goes, Rick would have a couple of cocktails on a plane, would retreat to the
That
back,
robot.
and would come back out in the robe with the world championship belt on and nothing on underneath.
Mhm.
So
Wrestling's great, man.
it's
Wrestling's
fantastic.
fantastic.
No, it's fantastic. So yeah, no, I assume that was pulled. Look, if it was either pulled from the headlines or Michael Waldron is like lived a past life as a handler for Ric Flair in like the 1970s or something like that.
And one other thing that I loved that you did was adding in the dip. The fact that you were dipping throughout was fantastic with
Yeah,
the chewing tobacco. That was a
yeah.
great, like, what wrestlers not dipping, even though I think it's horrific and nobody should be doing it, but good nod.
So I also want to put in the
You don't actually dip, do you?
no, no,
Oh,
no, no,
thank
no,
God.
no. And in
Thank
fact,
God.
I do it in the second episode. And I think it was called for a bunch more times in the show, and they'd be like, "Do you want to dip in the scene?" And I was like, "No,
Mm-mm.
I don't."
It's disgusting.
I want to get in the wrestler shot. Do you know what the wrestler shot is?
No.
Cody told me about this. It's back in the day when the boys were driving from one spot to the other. You get the rookies in the back, and they'd have the bottle of Jack Daniels, and so the veterans would pass it back to them, and it's a shot of Jack Daniels, but in order to prove that you're doing it and not just fake swigging out of the bottle, you have to gargle before you swing.
Oh God.
It is as disgusting as it sounds. It is revolting. It's
I would
awful.
projectile vomit
Oh,
100%. I'm not cut out for
terrible.
that.
We
Jack,
did it.
maybe. Jameson, absolutely not.
We did it after SummerSlam. We went and did some wrestler shots after SummerSlam, and it is
Oh
disgusting.
my God. Okay, so your relationship with Cody. This is
Mm-hmm.
like, you guys are thick as thieves, the two of you, and you guys
Yeah.
basically became friends while you guys were trying to put together this match for SummerSlam, right? Like, you
Yeah.
wanted to get involved, you wanted to step into the ring, and you guys hooked up, and that's sort of the tale of the friendship of you two that now is so
Yeah.
intertwined.
Yeah. He was doing a Stardust gimmick, and so he's
I
supposed
mean,
to be.
I'm pretty sure that I was the one that connected you guys, but
I think you were. Actually,
I think I was.
I think
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I
absolutely.
did. Yeah.
When did you start at WWE?
I started there in 2013 or
Yeah.
no, 2012. 2012. Yeah.
Oh my God,
I know.
2012?
I know.
Because we saw
Honestly.
each other in. Do you remember you and I watched Game 1 of the 2012 Stanley Cup Final together
Yes.
in
In Toronto.
Toronto?
Yep.
Yeah, because I was there for press and the Kings were in it, and nobody gave a shit. Which is like, okay, it's weird. We're in
Yeah.
Toronto, but they don't care about the Kings and the Devils playing. So he started in 2012, and I recognized immediately that there's no way that you could possibly go in with the last name Paquette, right?
Oh God,
Impossible.
no.
Because all I could think of was
Absolutely not.
the Rougeau brothers.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So you connected us a couple of years later. So he was doing a Stardust gimmick. You guys were doing a Monday Night Raw out at Nassau Coliseum Memorial Day weekend, and it was mostly just getting an invite to go out to the show. So I came out with my buddy Drew, that
Yeah.
obviously, and Cody was like, "Hey, I just talked with Vince, and I got it approved that I get to hiss at you when I come out for my match."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, sure." And so he hissed at me, and I did the whole, "I'm coming at you" type thing, and he cowered. And then I put it on social media, and then the next thing you know, we had a match going. And the match in and of itself was pretty nerve wracking, but the most nerve wracking element of that personally was there was a show. It was in, not Bellingham. It was just outside of, just about an hour north of Seattle. You guys were doing a Monday Night Raw, and
Mhm.
this was a week,
Oh, and
two
like
weeks.
Everett or something,
Everett,
maybe.
Washington. That's right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Thank you. And so I had been with Cody that Saturday in Victoria, working on stuff in the ring, and that Sunday in Vancouver working on stuff in the ring. Like I was saying, like Arn Anderson, Kofi, Big Show, Big E. All these guys were super, 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 super helpful. Just getting all into it. And I think,
well, you were very into it, which obviously helped. I mean, they could see the fact that you were out doing house shows and like you were putting in the real work to be ready for this match. You weren't just coming in as like the celebrity to do the thing. You were invested.
Yeah, I to me, the biggest thing, apparently, according to Cody, was I just changed in the locker room with the boys. They're like, he's like, it went a long way. I'm like, oh, okay. But in Everett, Washington, so I was doing Cody comes out, does his match, he did a run in, and then he goes, he confronts me, he face washes me, but that didn't happen until hour 3 of the show. So I was the guest at Raw. I think you and I did a thing ringside, like a quick interview.
That's right.
I think
we did. Yeah.
The Miz ripped on my acting skills like 90 minutes into the show. But it's like, I've got to do this run in, and I'm just got all this adrenaline pumping, and it's like,
and how do you not smash 1 million beers before the 3rd hour of Raw?
Oh, I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. What I do know is about like 2 hours in, I realized that I'm hopping the barricade and jumping into the ring, but I had been doing it earlier I'd been doing it earlier shorts, and now I'm wearing like khakis. I was like, oh my, am I gonna rip my pants? I actually went into the bowels of the arena and like practiced running and jumping in these pants. So I'm sure somebody saw me and was like, what is this person doing?
Just getting in those stunts for Arrow. That's it.
I was big into jumping into the ring, jumping up onto the apron, and Road Dogg, who was producing this event, was like, you can't jump in the ring. You can't jump in the ring. Well, why not? Well, if you miss the first step and you fall, it's over. And I'm not going to miss the first step. I'm jumping I'm jumping up on the apron, and I'm hopping over the top rope. And he said, okay, cool. But if you miss the step, or if you catch your foot going over the top rope, you do not have a match.
Like Vince. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. He's like, you don't have a match at SummerSlam because it's canceled. It's done. And I go, okay, great. So yeah, so I finally did that, and I mean, I'll never forget that experience ever. I jumped in the ring, tackled Cody, and I remember Road Dogg saying, he knows, he's a big boy, he knows how to take a hit, so lay your shoulder into him. And then when I got on top of him, I was putting the forearms in because he didn't want me to like break my knuckles. He goes, and try to get those through. Try to get them through. It's his job to cover up. Because if you slip one through and you cut him, that's real good for us. And I'm like, okay.
Red in the face, green in the pocket, babe.
There it is. Green equals red, or red equals green.
Yeah.
But then I got backstage and I had to do this segment with Neville and Hunter, and the adrenaline that kicked in, my mouth was so dry that I couldn't swallow. Like, but I felt like Jim Carrey and like Me, Myself, and Irene, like that. Yeah, that's how I felt. And so they finally got me some water, and I did. But that was just such an amazing experience, and just so cool. So yeah, so Cody and I stayed friends, and then he did some stuff on Arrow, and that was all during his run on the indie circuits. And just we stayed in touch. We did I came and did stuff with him, became an honorary or just a member of the Bullet Club at a Ring of Honor show in San Antonio. And and just since then we've just been going for it. And I'm hoping, hopefully, if the show, if the show takes off or hits right, then I can do something with AEW. Although I got to tell you, I'm straight up, I'm flirting with divorce if I get back in the ring.
Oh, shit. Cass is not having it. Well, welcome to my world. Damn. Yeah. I mean, I knew what I was getting into, to be fair, but still, I feel her.
But the problem is that the problem is that she came to the Ring of Honor match that I did in San Antonio, where the first thing that I do is I go in, and I think I gave, it was either Christopher Daniels or Frankie. How do you say, is that Kazarian?
Kazarian. Yeah.
I was giving it was like a 6 versus 5 tag match, and I was giving him an RKO. So I go in. I've never
Not
done
an
an
easy thing to pull off. Shit.
never tried.
You gotta
Never
have your
tried it.
timing. Yeah.
Never tried it
Got
before.
this.
Did it. So it was just get in the ring, crowd pops, come out of the ring, and I turned to Matt of Matt of the Young Bucks, and I went and I looked at him. I went, "Am I bleeding?" And he went, "No, why?" And I said, "Because I can't feel anything from the tip of my head down to the tops of my shoulders, and it feels like there is steam coming off of my ears. I had jacked up my neck so badly doing this." So Cass has witnessed this. She's witnessed the fracture of the hip. She's, is the first call that gets made when I do the stunt and hurt my back. So, the one thing that I'll say is that I actually have a lot more ring experience now than I have when I've been actually doing these matches. So hopefully we can figure out some type of angle to run with Cody where maybe it's someone else getting the heat. Maybe I'm the one that's laying maybe it's me that's laying the beating. Right.
Yeah, you definitely got to work around that. I feel like you've earned those stripes at this point that you can pull that off a little bit.
And hey, I haven't had a chance to ask you how has it been since you've transitioned away from WWE?
It's cool. I mean, there's things that I miss, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much. I don't want to say that I don't miss the job. Of course, there's aspects of that I miss, but it's missing all the people. You spend that much time, 8 years with everyone on the road as often as we were. I mean, you spend 8 years traveling for Raw, for SmackDown, for pay-per-views. I mean, that's a lot of time in cars with people, time in hotel bars with people, like all that time that you really spend together. And then you take yourself out of that situation and you're like, do I not have any friends anymore? It's so weird. It's such a trip. I mean, obviously I stay in touch with everybody, but it's not the same as being able to just like casually hang out by the ring and see people and, talk shit after the show, all that, like the fun aspect that comes from doing a show together. I do miss doing that because now I'm just like on my own island doing my own thing, but it's cool. And, the timing of things, I mean, for me, looking at the way that things have shaken out, especially with WWE in the past year, I'm really glad that I left when I did.
I haven't been I haven't really been following. So if there's
it's just, it's more so just like all of the firings and cleaning house. And it just seems a little eggshellish to me. And I hate working like that. Like feeling like everyone's under so much pressure. No one wants to work like that. I understand the business side of having to do some of the things that they're doing, but it does suck to see so many people be let go. But it's also cool seeing people get this rejuvenation of their own careers of things that they wanted to do that they weren't able to do in WWE.
Well, I mean, I know personally that I obviously made a bunch of friends there. I certainly wasn't on the road for 8 years, but I've a couple people that I've just been in touch with, and I'd be like, how are things? And they're like, I'm not with the company anymore. Shit.
Yeah, I know.
I've stuck my foot in my mouth like 3 times.
Yeah, it does, because even when it's like the mass firings, you're like, wait, so who got let go? Who didn't? You almost like don't even want to check. So you're like, was that real? Did that actually happen? You like see it on the dirt sheets or whatever. Yeah. Speaking of the dirt sheets, your friend Ricky Rabies, is he going to be All Elite? What are your thoughts on what's happening here of the?
So I read all.
What do you think's happening?
I read that. That
that's CM Punk, by the way, for people that don't know.
Yeah. And Bryan Danielson is Daniel Bryan for the uninitiated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I straight up, I texted him. I said, "You coming back?" And he sent me back. He sent me back a photo of a cat shrugging, like a gif of a cat going. Mm. And then he obviously saw the red notification, and he sends me a note like 2 hours later, like, "Come on, that deserved a response. That's a good photo." And I'm like, "Well, how about an answer?" And he didn't say anything. So I have no idea. I can tell you firsthand though that two things. Number one, and I think this kind of goes without saying, he can still go. Like Phil can still go. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I see him just working out on his Instagram videos. I mean, he doesn't mess around in the gym. That's for sure.
He's, I mean, and although it was always fun seeing him in the gym, because he, and I think that we're either the same age or he's a tiny bit older than I am. But he would spend longer limbering up his body and warming up than I would spend working out. Right, like his warm up process, and he'd just be like, "Well, because I did this and I did this and I did this and I did this." So, I don't. Again, I can't speak for him, but just the impression that I got was that he was very much at peace with not being involved in the business.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that being in the business, there's more to it than just, do you want to bump? Do you want to get in the ring? And the landscape has changed. I mean,
Massively,
like,
drastically.
I mean, like, you think that who's to say if you went and you asked a wrestler, like, do you want to be in the business anymore? And they're like, no, I'm good. I've done my time. Okay, well, what if we could drop you right in the middle of the Monday Night Wars? Would you want to be in the business then? They'd be like, yep.
Hell yeah.
Yes, I would. I would
Get
love
those
to be in the business.
boots.
Like, do you want to be there in the early 90s when, they're doing that thing about like Vince, and they were
Yeah.
getting like very family friendly? No. Well, what about like, do you want to run a program with Steamboat leading into WrestleMania 3? Yeah, I do.
Sure.
I do. So I think that, AEW, whether or not he ends up there or Brian ends up there, or whether they both end up in the WWE, one way or the other, AEW has done its job.
Sure.
From my
It stirred the
perspective,
pot.
because
Absolutely.
it stirred the pot. And I was saying this earlier. I think that anything that happens in the business that's going to piss Vince off or get his competitive juices flowing is good for the business at large. I mean,
It's good for the wrestlers. It's great
yeah.
for the wrestlers.
I mean, look, don't tell Cody this, but for me, like, the ultimate would be, the ultimate match from my money is probably Phil versus Triple H at Mania. Just give it to me. Just
Makes a lot of sense.
hook it to my veins. Just give it to me. I want it. I want it. I want it. I want it.
I think a lot of people probably agree with you on that, but I think no matter what, I think people are just clamoring for the idea of that music to hit, CM Punk to come out. I don't think it matters. Not that it doesn't matter where it is, but the fact if he were to put on some boots and put on some trunks again and get in the ring and start working, I think people are just going to lose their shit.
I mean, it's pretty simple. It should be at Soldier Field in Chicago.
Well,
so when
Phil,
when there you go. You're welcome, wrestling world. Hey, when Phil booked the show, I was freaking out. I'm telling everyone, I'm like, Jesus Christ,
did you talk to him? Did you know him prior to him coming in to do heels?
No, I didn't. No, because he was gone from the WWE when I did my stuff. So, for me, the barometer is always Cody. Like when I learned that Phil was interested, or that they were interested in him, of course, get in touch with Cody, and then I'm like, he's like, nice guy, couldn't be a nicer guy, and he was right. But the cast was getting together because we didn't have anyone else to hang out with when we were filming. And I was like, hey guys, you got to check this out. And I played them his match against John Cena, when it was like he was if he won, he was leaving the company at midnight, but he got the hometown pop. And I'm like, you're about to watch the greatest hometown reaction that any wrestler has ever got, ever. And this guy's going to be on our show. And they were just like mystified by the match, just enchanted.
It's really fun getting to introduce people to wrestling through things like that. That like it blows their mind, that they're like, wait, this person is so, just to have the fan base of somebody like CM Punk, and to see him with a crowd like that, like, it blows people's minds. I remember having my family come down to WrestleMania, and I was like so excited for them to watch John have his match, because my family didn't really know that much about wrestling.
Sure.
So for them to come out and like hear a WrestleMania crowd pop for John was so cool, for them to be able to be a part of that and to like understand wrestling a little bit, or like respect it more.
Do you remember which one it was?
It would have been in, actually, you know what? I think it was the Santa Clara show, which is funny
Okay.
because it was on the pre-show.
No, it wasn't.
John was. John was
Mm-mm.
on the in Santa Clara. That was when he busted his head open with Brody. I'm pretty sure in the
Yeah,
ladder match
except
for
that
the
but
IC
the ladder
title.
match, the ladder match was the curtain jerker.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the first match
Why did I think it was on the? Oh, maybe
because
you know
Cody.
what? Your
Because
memory is better than mine. Oh, because Cody
thank you
was
very
in it
much.
with the polka dot ladder.
That's exactly right. That is
Yes.
exact.
Thank God you're. Oh yeah, Emilio,
No,
my
no,
producer just said it
that's
was the first match. You're right.
it was the first match. The polka dot ladder, believe it or not, I'm not trying to big time you here. The
I
polka
don't. My
dot.
memory's so shit. So
Okay,
you're probably right.
so I'm gonna tell you this. It was the first match in Santa Clara. It was sunny and crazy. It was for the IC strap.
Brian went
Brian
over.
Danielson won it.
Yeah.
Um, and the next year they also opened with the ladder, and that's when Cody pulled out the polka dot because I was 4 feet away
Ah.
from him, sitting in the front row for maybe one of the greatest experiences of my entire life, because I got to take my buddy Zacho, and it's WrestleMania, and we're walking out during America the Beautiful, not knowing where our seats are yet, and I'm like, we're just being escorted, and all of a sudden, like, I see where they're taking us. They fully took us like front row
The best.
behind the announce table. But Cody was telling me during the match that your family was there for John. You can see after he bumps and goes through the ladder, you can see Cody slide his hand
Yes. To
underneath
check for
John's
blood.
head to check to see that his skull was still properly attached.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, did he hurt himself? Was that bad?
He did. He gashed his head
Oh,
open real good. Yeah.
oh God.
I know. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly because I remember we were doing the pre-show up at like the very top of the stadium, and I'm trying to like wind my way back through the stadium trying to find him. And
Yeah.
we were passing Brian, and Brian was like, he's fine, he's fine. But like my thing is anytime I see John and I think he's remotely hurt, he like overstates that he's okay. I'm like, you're
Okay.
full of shit.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I remember Kevin Owens took a similar bump the next year in the ladder match, and I saw him, and I remember remarking to people that were like sitting around us, we're like, I don't know how Kevin is going to walk away from this at all. And I saw him that night with his family
Mhm.
at the Mania party, and he didn't make it to the party. He was not moving very quickly at all. Yeah.
Ladder matches are terrifying. They're
Yeah.
horrifying no matter which way you look at them. They're so unpredictable. Bad
Yeah.
shit can happen. I always think of Joey Mercury getting the ladder in the
Ugh.
face and his whole face exploding, basically. Very
Well,
scary.
I think that one of the things that fans don't know too is being there before the show and watching the guys talk about the match. They realize that in a stadium show like that, that your basic ladder just won't do.
No,
They're like the
they're like
basic ladder won't do. So they're
high.
huge. They're way
Yeah.
bigger.
Yeah.
We do a ladder match in the first season of Heels, and I got to tell you, just a basic ladder, just being at the top of a basic ladder when you're already 3 or 4 feet elevated because you're in the ring,
Mhm.
looking down at the fans in the first row.
No.
You have no concept of how high you are. No concept at all.
Yeah,
Someone
John
like,
always says like
yeah.
don't climb the ladder during rehearsals because you'll psych yourself
Oh yeah,
out.
yeah. 100. I can
Definitely
see that,
not.
for sure.
Okay, so really quickly, we're wrapping up on time here, but who, in your opinion, speaking of heels, is the best heel in the business right now? I don't know how
Right
much
now,
I don't know how much you're watching everything right now. So if you can't draw from that, we'll just go best heels in general.
I mean, Roman is pretty good. Roman's pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm more of an all-time guy. I don't think that um Triple H gets a lot of love from me. His first, like, his heel run when he became like the Game. I think both The Rock and Stone Cold were on sort of sidelined. He basically had to take the reins for a little bit, and
Yeah.
he turned himself into a monster heel. He's time, and but I think maybe the greatest heel of all time is like the original incarnation of Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of the very definition of like,
It was so organic.
he just didn't give a shit.
Yep.
Right. You know,
Yeah.
like even Austin 316, I'm sure that that's something that they looked at, but I mean, people forget that like he's mocking Jake the Snake finding religion, and he calls him a piece of trash. He's like, get that piece of trash out of here. I mean, he was great.
It was like such a good time too, because there was no social media. So nobody was like,
right.
a lot of times it's, you know, people kind of toe the line a little bit now of like still wanting to be over with the fans and a little apprehensive about how they come across as a heel character. But
it's tough to be a real monster heel right now, because because the better that you get as a heel, the more inevitable it becomes that people cheer you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how are you gonna like? How are
Roman's
you gonna?
An example of that, right?
Yeah, like,
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
now.
like, yeah. I mean, honestly, like, in a lot of ways, you know, like he's getting these reactions because he's being the version that people have always wanted to see.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah. Okay, my last thing to talk to you about that has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, but I want to get a plug in here for you, is Knocking Point. What other wines do we have coming out?
Oh, man. So
I love that you have a wine company. I love that you do different lines. You've got like what is it? The like pink wine for men?
Pink wine for dudes?
Ever for dudes, yeah.
Yeah. Started off as Apex Rosé, but on the back it said pink wine for dudes, and everyone people were just calling it pink wine for dudes. So it's, all right. Yeah, so I actually have a wine coming out. It's a red, and it's going to be available on the 1st of August, and it's called Kayfabe.
Oh, perfect! I love
that. Which is the title of our first episode, and we got an awesome photo of me from All In when I'm laying on the ground, face down, and with a broken table wrapped around me from when I tried to drop the elbow on Christopher Daniels, and he miraculously moved out of the way at the last moment. And so we have that coming out, and I think that we've got some good collaborations coming up. And the cool thing that's happening with Knocking Point, we've got a new wine called NPX1, where we're getting into the business of flow codes and people unlocking experiences. And
what is a flow code? I don't know.
Like the QR code that you scan now for menus.
Yes.
Right. So we have a wine label. We have a wine now that has a QR code on it, flow code, QR code. What do you call them? And we're just sort of like trying to unlock the experience. And I mean, we're the official wine of sports now. It's trademarks and everything. So so like we started a partnership with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we did another partnership with this is a great name, the Corvallis Sweets.
Okay.
They're a minor league baseball team. So we've got a couple more of those partnerships coming down the line. But it started off as something that Drew and I were doing, and then he's really taken the reins in terms of the company building. Not really, he has taken the reins in terms of the company building, because it at its core, it is still something where if we come up with an idea, it makes the two of us laugh, and it has good wine attached to it, then it's good. But it's an actual company now with like employees and a board, and we actually, and we've taken on some investment as well, and just sort of trying to create an influencer board, actually, with some people in the wrestling business. So I think that there are going to be some good tie-ins, and I'm very, very proud of it. It's been a process of me not stepping back, but it's to the point now where it's like, I'm glad that we started it. I'm glad that it's happening, but I am trying to be an actor. Like that's what I'm trying to do. So, and Drew understands that too. It's like, look, man, I'm not necessarily going to have time for an hour call every Tuesday at 11 o'clock, because I'm on set or I'm doing press, and so it's good.
Yeah. Great. Well, I can't wait to check out more of your wine. Heels is coming out August 15th.
Mhm.
Everybody's got to check that out, coming out on Starz. I'm so excited for you. Jumping
Thank you.
into another television series like an absolute badass.
Just like we drew it up.
Yeah,
Just like we drew it up.
draw up those plans. Well, thanks for hopping on with me. Thank you for always being so great to me throughout my career. You've always been someone that I've
Oh,
been kind of lean on for stuff. So appreciate you, buddy.
well, speaking of leaning on me, send me your address so that I can now that you can enjoy some wine, we got to send some your
Oh,
way.
okay. Done and done. You got it. All right. Enjoy your time in New York. Enjoy all the press and everything and the screeners for your show. And yeah, we'll be getting everybody to check out some heels.
Yeah, Sunday, August 15th at 9 p.m. Get the Starz app, subscribe. If you're in Canada, get Crave.
Oh, get Crave Canada. Don't let our boy down.
Thank you
He's
very
our poster boy.
much.
Who Ryan Reynolds? Who cares? We've got Stephen Amell.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's the superhero. He's got the superhero gin corner covered. Give me the
Right.
professional wrestling wine corner.
Yeah, let's go.
Stay off my corner, Reynolds.
Beat it. Back up. All right. I'll talk to you soon, dude.
Okay, thank you, Renee.
Thanks, buddy.